Hey folks, this is Jay here from Chandler, Arizona. This week on Future of Work and kind of, merge it with Gen AI, let's talk about middle management. In the recent times, for I think last 2 years and actually the next 3 years as well, the middle management is getting a bad rep. And by middle management, I mean it relatively, right? For a 80,000 people company, there would be a much larger middle management. For a 10 people company, there would be a much thinner middle management. So I mean relatively, there is no direct correlation between what your title is and what if you are in the middle management or not. For banks, for example, a VP could be in the middle management, for example. But in the recent times, middle management with or without Gen AI has taken a lot of flack for no specifically thought through fault of theirs. So these are my thoughts of where middle management is. Historically, if we go back a few decades, middle management started with the industrial age, with the age of assembly lines, where middle managements were there to help companies scale. There was this concept of business units which were brought by GMs, the GEs, the Procter and Gambles of the world. And in these business units, the leaders would come up with a vision and strategy and communicate it to the middle management. The middle management would communicate it to the upcoming layer, and the upcoming layer would execute on the work. Over time, what started happening is three things. One is the middle management uh, got formed with a layer of people who actually were loyalists of the company, who did not intend to leave the company for other career aspirations and things like that. So over time, that middle management became very costly. Number two was the communications which they are doing down to their people became extremely complicated or complex. So what started happening is the simplicity of a vision or a strategy became more complicated by the time it reached the people who are executing it. Last but not least, with the advent of cloud technologies, there were a lot of great tools which allowed the leadership to do skip level meetings, to do broadcast messages via videos, via tweets or Slack messages, to communicate their vision in a much more broader but much more simplistic fashion. So there was a lot of conversation as to, do we need this costly, complex role in the middle, which is not serving the purpose. Now, it was not the fault of middle management, but I feel there has been a failure globally of to redefine the middle management role. Are we going to keep saying that the middle management role is the same as it used to be during the industrial revolution or the assembly line revolution, or is it going to change over time? One last thing which has been happening with middle management because of all this problem over time is that rather than redefining the role, a lot of companies have said, oh, rather than redefine the role, why not you take more and more things? So rather than focusing on communication and maybe improving that, middle management has been taking up new administrative tasks or individual contribution tasks, like auditing expense reports, or doing tasks which traditionally an executive assistant would do, like filing expense reports and things like that. So this now has, with Gen AI coming in, now people are scratching their heads saying, do we really need middle management? But again, all these companies need to figure out that where does but making a role more relevant, just where does it end? uh, to add just more tasks to a role to make it relevant? Or do we need to go back to drawing board and say, okay, this may be the history of this role, but do we need to reinvent this role? Because every other company is saying that communication is the hardest thing just now, especially with the pandemic and people dispersing where they are. It is becoming harder and harder to go. So should we go back? And what I believe is that we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what the actual role of middle management is. Is it communication? Is it people management? Is it one-on-one coaching where somebody is struggling with the communication or the vision or the strategy which is being broadcasted by the leadership, to work with them to make sure that employees sustenance in the company is more long term and more collaborative? Is it working in a matrix model to make sure that all the teams are working in a collaborative fashion to take the common goals and ethos of the company forward? The decision is on leaders to actually make sure that they redefine this role. I feel rather than tacking on more responsibility on middle management to make it relevant, we should go back and redefine the role so that it is much more strategic, it is much more leadership oriented, and we are prepping them to become the next leaders and not just making it relevant and keeping loyalists for long term. Thank you very much. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and let's collaborate. Thank you.